You know what we're going to talk about today? Something I really don't know all that much about. I get the general idea of it. And that's primarily because over the years, I think we're going to talk about why I don't know that much about it and why it has, and that's reverse mortgages. Number one, I've never had one, obviously, for various reasons.
Age
And
wise, one
then,
of them, but anyway.
well, you have to be a certain age. And then, I say here that the reasons are twofold. One, I've never had one, and I don't really know that much about them because of it. And then two, what I do know about reverse mortgages, I'm thinking this has got to be one of the best years ever in history of the market to get a reverse mortgage. Am I close? Is that?
Well, and people have all record all time, equity. I mean, a lot of people have 40%, they owe 25, 30, 40% LTVs, which means loan to value. So that means they have like 60% equity. They have 75, which is the highest that most people have ever seen. And that's one of the issues we're having now, why we have limited supply of inventory, is because you have to look at what's it going to cost me to move, right?
So Ed, I'm not going to assume that you know this already, but the first reverse mortgage was done in 1961. Did you know that?
I think it was I think I saw a
1960.
commercial for about that with somebody
Yeah,
talking about it. Yeah.
1961, and it was because uh, a mortgage loan officer, mortgage broker, actually, his high school football coaches died and left the widow, and she was going to lose the house. And he came up with this loan so that she could stay. Her name was Nellie. Hey, or no, let's see. Her name was Nellie Young, and it was in Portland, Maine, 1961. And Nelson Hayes was the name of the her savior, really, at that moment in time. And it was Deering Savings and Loan, and Hayes designed what was then a very unique type of loan so that she could stay in the house. And it kind of validates what I always say. A person's why is what usually creates the how, or necessity is the mother of invention. But
I like that one better.
Plato, that was Plato. Yeah. So, so what is a reverse mortgage exactly? I mean,
well,
basically.
all right. So for most people, when you get a loan, right, you make a principal and interest payment on your loan every month till you pay it off. On a reverse mortgage, you take out so much money, and I won't get into everything right now, but basically the interest that you would normally pay on the loan, you don't pay, that gets added onto your loan amount. So if you borrowed 300,000 as an example, and your interest payment was, say, $800 that month, that gets added on every month until you pass away. All right. And then your heirs can come, if there's nobody else in the house, and, if you're not married, your heirs can come in and refinance it and sell it. And the reason that a lot of people don't like them and heard bad things about them, because they've evolved since 1961 drastically, right? There was a period of time where people they got taken advantage of during the downturn, right, that we went through. A lot of reverse mortgages came due, and people just walked away from them. But that's how they're set up. That's what they're supposed to be set up. So, but right now we have so much equity, and the fact that the house values are going to continue to rise for so many years until we get caught up with the amount of homes we need, you're outpacing what you're adding. But you can also make that interest portion of the payment if you wanted to. You don't have to have it at a.
So you're listening to Real Estate Jerky here on PowerTalk 1360 KFIV with our host, Ed Parco, MBA veteran, mortgage advisor, and president of Lending for Living. If a reverse mortgage sounds like exactly what you need, and it's probably too soon in this for you to figure that out, but we're going to talk some more about it. But you can reach out to Ed at 209-404-1915. That's 209-404-1915, or visit lendingforliving.com. And you can always email us too at radio@realestatejerky.com. So, okay. So because the equity is so great and the interest rate is so low, so those are two reasons from what I just heard you say that makes reverse mortgage such a good time right now. Better than any time in history.
It's really about the equity portion of it, because interest rates on these. So there's like two types. There's the FHA product, and then there's a portfolio product. A portfolio product means it's owned internally. It's not sold to the secondary market like the FHA is. The difference is FHAs are all mainly adjustables. You can get a fixed rate one up front, but it's unique because you have to do certain things. And again, I can't get into every specific about this because it depends on you. It depends on your date of birth, your age, depends on the value of your home, what you owe, all that kind of stuff to which program works best for you. But the one thing about the FHA ones is they're adjustable, right? If you go with that one. So you might be low today, but if we keep going with inflation, you're going to add more on. But the reason you do a reverse mortgage is one, to get your dignity and your life back. And let me explain what I mean by that. For most people who need this is because they're on a fixed income and they have two choices: sell the house, pay a ton of capital gains, right? Or they can stay in the house, do a reverse mortgage, and live off the equity they've built and not have to pay that capital gains. That doesn't come into play because a lot of people will look at their house. I have one right now. I have a gentleman, he bought it for, let's just say that you bought it for 500,000. It's now worth 1.3 million and you want to sell it. Well, anything over what you paid for it, up to 500,000 if you're married, after that is capital gains. Right. So so what do? The best for most people, just look at this option, see if it benefits you. We bring in your CPA, we bring in everybody to make sure it works for you and it's beneficial to you. And I totally forgot how much this helped people. I had one guy come in last Friday and we're going through the numbers and he's like, he's on a fixed income and now all he has to worry about is his taxes and insurance. And he's so happy because he bought his house so long ago. That's so low. And before that, he was trying to make the payment and all those and not make it every day. So, and it just allows you to do more in life.
So you just answered one of the questions I had about the different types of reverse mortgages. So what's the most common type?
The most common people see is the FHA. All right. Okay. That's what most people do. But the problem with the FHA, you can only take so much out the first year and then you can take the residual the following year. But then also, so that, it's just like all the other loan programs we have, we don't know which one to use until we sit down with you and see what best works for you. I have someone who needed, so FHA max out at, I have a chart here. So their home limit on FHA is up to 970,000. So if your house is worth 2 million or 1.5, which is like the Bay Area, you're not going to get as much as you want with the FHA product. But the portfolio product, it's maxed out at the value of the house. So if the value of the house is 1.7 million, then you can get that value. And then they figure out the factor. I had a gentleman who was supposed to get 1.7 million with the value of the house, and he was getting 1.2 million out up front.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you don't have to do that, but I'm just saying the FHA.
And you get to stay in the house. Can you So can you outlive a reverse mortgage? No. Let's say you do it at 62 and you live to be 98.
They figure you're going to live to be 130.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So that's the actuarial on it, right?
Yeah, so that, and who's, how many people really going to, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So, okay. So
that's the issue, right? So why you can only take out so much, because they figure that things are going to get added on over so long. And so they only max out a certain dollar amount. But if your house is worth 1.7, you can get 1.2 out. That's a lot of money, right? Mm-hmm. How long can you live off? And for most people who are doing these, they lost their 401k and 403b and IRA during the downturn. They used it to survive off of, right? Instead of, and that's why they're doing this now, because it benefits them and they can go forward their life and enjoy it. And it's about enjoying it. Because it's important if you talk to your kids about it, they're going to say, we don't want your house, mom, or dad, or whatever. They're going to say, do what's best for you to get by in this time at the end of your years, enjoy your life, right? They don't care about getting the house. And if they do, get better kids. But next, right. Because that's what I remember when I've had some people come to me family wise and they were doing it. And we're like, we don't want your house. Do what you got to do. Right.
What's different about today's reverse mortgage compared to the first ones they did back in 1961? Like, what's the biggest difference?
I don't know. I wasn't even born there at that time, so I couldn't tell you. Well, in fact, that first
bragger,
that first one that you're talking about, I'm sure didn't have all the safety stuff in place, right? If FHA got involved and they took it
Yep.
over. They do stuff that protects you. And so then the portfolio products kind of go off, mimic that also. One of the biggest differences, now you have to have counseling, right? Back then, I'm sure you didn't have to have counseling. So now you have to go to, and if you can call it or you can go there, COVID kind of stopped the going to the counselors. You just call them. They want to make sure, understand what you're taking out. They want to understand that they want to make sure that your kids aren't forcing you to do this so that they can steal your money. They want to make sure that you're being protected. And that's why the counseling is there. They want you to understand what you're doing because they don't want to see if somebody is, not all there, right, mentally, and is being taken advantage by somebody else. So that's why they're doing
Well,
this.
good. What are the risks of a reverse mortgage?
It just depends on your situation. Risk wise, you're adding interest onto your loan. That's the only risk, that your house could be worth less your house could be worth less than what you owe on your house, right? And say you live for 30 to 40 years, there is a potential for that. But there's also a potential that if you live for 30 years, how much more is your house going to be worth versus what you're adding on? Because we can show you the interest. Like the one that was going to take out 1.2 million, he was adding on 41,000 in interest a year, right?
Ooh,
but if he only appreciated the normal percent, which is on average 5%, he's outpacing the interest he's adding on.
Gotcha.
You follow me?
Yeah. So how long does a reverse mortgage take to close? Is it any different than a regular mortgage?
Well, it depends. And the reason I say it depends because a lot of the companies want you to use certain escrow companies who supposedly specialize in that type of loan, right? That escrows, which they take forever. So we went around that. And so we can actually, if you have all your paperwork together, and that's the other thing, you're dealing with older people, you're dealing with certain things that don't always work at the same speed that we work at, right? So if you had everything in, you can close them in 30 days or less.
That's cool.
Yeah. But if you're slow at getting the stuff in, it could take, I have one right now that's been going on for 4 months.
Like?
I have one that's been going on for 4 months, and it has to do with the client and what they're providing us and what's happening with them. Because the other difference now versus a few years ago is a few years ago, you didn't have to qualify. Now you have to qualify. You have to make sure you can pay for your taxes and your insurance and any other debt that you have. All right. That's the difference. So that's either whether you're getting Social Security, whether you're taking some of the proceeds from the loan to pay you to offset those numbers. That's the difference today versus a few years ago. All right. So the first step is you talk to somebody like us and we tell you what you can get. And then we send you to a counselor because you can't start at all right away. You have to go to a counselor. Once you talk to the counselor and you sign the certificate that you once you do that process, 7 days later, we can start the application process and go forward. That's the protection for you, that nothing gets started until then. And then they're going forward. If you have all your documents in, the fastest one is 30 days around there, just because of process and time. But, that's the process. I hope I answered that right.
Yeah, no, perfect. And I think probably more so than any other kind of loan is because so there's only a limit on the value of the home and your certain situations of what you qualify for what you're able to take out, right?
Right. So, and it all depends on, again, your age and how long. So we have to look at the youngest person in the house. The thing is with the FHA, if you're 62 and you have somebody younger than you in the house, that's okay. The portfolio products, you can't. You have to. The youngest has to be 62 in the house, or older, of course. But the FHA, you look at it and say that your house value is 970, like we were talking about, right? The max. So you're maxed out at 619,000, but your first year, the max net principal. So your principal limit that you can actually get is 590. So the first year max you can get out is 342 out of that house. Okay. The residual is available to you the following year. So they want to make sure that you don't use it all the first year. Well, what if you owed
go to Vegas?
Well, no, what if you owed 341,000 on your house, right? Or the numbers were there so that you can't get the residual for the following year. That's the limitation on the FHA. It's a certain 60% of what you can receive the first year. I mean, what you can receive, you can get the first year. The following year, you can get the residual of it. Where with the portfolio products, you can get it all up front.
Wow.
There's the difference. So it just depends what works best for you. And there's
So
so many different options.
what can you use the money for? Are there any limitations on that?
You can't use it to pay off debt to qualify.
Got it. Got it.
That's it. Other than that, you can use it for whatever you want. It's your money.
What can't you do a reverse mortgage on?
Anything that's not real property.
So, but I mean, if it's a duplex or
If
quad,
it's your primary residence and you live there, then you can do it. You can do it on that.
wow.
So the reason is some people live in a manufactured home in a lot, right? You know, when those I won't say trailer parks, but you know what I'm talking about, where they don't own the land. Well, you can't do it on that because you don't own it. It's like a vehicle. So it has to be. And again, we have to go through the different scenarios, but for most people, they have a single family home. We're doing one that's on acreage. So it's not, you know, you can't do it on so many acres. It just depends on the situation. And I know I'm saying,
but you are doing one on acreage. So if let's just say, so you would have to split the property if you didn't want to mortgage up. Let's just say
this is only 3 acres, so it's not that big of a deal.
But could you do one on
20 acres? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you got to remember, depending on but people won't do this on ag land, meaning that if you have 40 acres of almonds or this or that, you're not going to do this on that because you got income producing almonds that are paying or income producing whatever that's offsetting your income. You don't need this, right? You have other things that are bringing you income, where this is for people who I'm on Social Security and I'm only getting $1,200 a month. Right now I have a house payment that's $900, plus I got taxes and insurance and other stuff. How do I stay in this house for the rest of my life and not have to move? And a lot of people go, well, why don't you just move? Well, you can, and you can do a reverse mortgage, sell your house and do a reverse mortgage on the new house. On average, you put about 50% down and keep the rest of the cash. But then you still have to move. And for most people who've been in their house for 30, 40 years, the value that they bought their house for, and then what they're downgrading to, that's still over what the other one was. So you have to go. So in California, it's not a big deal. You can do Prop 19, transfer the base over. Well, in other states don't have that.
When you say that, what does that mean?
So basically transfer the base. So if I bought my house for 199,000 and then now my tax base on there, say 250, right? And that's my number, but and my house is now worth 700, which is not unheard of. Or in the Bay Area, it's even higher, right? So you can actually take that 250 and your next house you're buying at 400, your new tax base is still at the 250-ish because they do a formula to figure it out. They don't tell us what that formula is because we're still trying to figure that out, but you can transfer that tax. I mean, we asked the county, what is it? We do a formula after the close and whatever, but you won't get hit with the full amount. There will be some appropriation, whatever they call it.
So in a reverse mortgage, you're basically eating up that equity slowly, right?
Right.
So what happens, taxes and all that? What happens then? I know you're not a CPA, but.
Well, you can talk to your tax person, but basically nothing's going to happen until that house transfers.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there's another really good reason. So that's like you're gaining, I don't even know, capital gains depends on your age and your.
No, capital gains is 250,000 per individual, husband and wife that own that as a primary resident. As of what I understand, talk to your tax person. So that means if your house is worth 500,000, I mean, if your tax base is 500,000, you're selling it for $1 million, you're okay, right? But I got people from the Bay Area, and I'm bringing this up because it's coming here. It's happening here now. Also, they bought their house for 500,000. The house is now worth 1.4 million, and they're going to sell it. And they think I'm just going to put all the money back in my new house, so it's not going to matter. Wrong. Talk to your tax person because it's going to be that you're going to be paid. And they're like, what? And in California, it's 22%. If broke by Biden ever gets passed, that'll be 44% in California. That's how bad that program is that he's trying to push. And I'm not trying to, get everybody, but you need to get out and vote this year.
The heirs of the property in a reverse mortgage scenario. Okay, let's do a best case scenario, and then let's do a worst case scenario. How about that?
All right. So best case scenario, you live 20 years, the house still appreciates at 5%. And you're adding on a little bit of interest each year, right? Or whatever that number is. Say it's 30,000 each year, but your house, say it's a $500,000 house, and you're adding on 30,000 of interest. 10% is, so it's 25,000. Your house is appreciating each year only at 5%. So right. So you're adding on $5,000 of interest more than the house is appreciating. So in the best case scenario, you pass away, both parties pass away, or whoever did the reverse mortgages, and the heirs come in. They have two choices: they refinance it and keep it, or they sell it, pay off the loan, and pocket the profit. And that's going to happen more now than you've seen before, because our houses are appreciating more. The only time was the complete opposite was during the huge downturn, and a lot of people walked away from their houses at that time because they owed more on it than anybody else. So best case scenario, that. Worst case scenario, it's even, you don't touch it, heirs like, it's not our problem, and it goes back to the bank, and the bank sells it.
It's not a product. I mean, it's a product that gets used, but not like, because we haven't had a scenario like this where you've got incredible, I mean, good grief. What was the last time we looked at it? You looked at it, Ed, you were telling me it was like 22% increase this year alone.
Well, it's been that way. It's average for Modesto. We're the 7th least affordable city in the country
right now.
Right now, 7th.
Right.
Yeah. And that because of the value that went up. So if you want to stay in your home, this is a great product. And I know we give out my cell number. You could call the office, and I have people who help me on these. But the issue with these is they haven't come up as much before because we've never had this much equity, right? Most people couldn't do them and pay off what they owe on the house and still get some more money where it made sense. But now it's totally different. And I mean, the whole industry is going crazy. And I know a lot of people are they look at the negative side. Well, I want to leave something for my heirs, right? I don't want to use it all. You know what? You won't. You're gonna use some of it, but not all of it, and you need to survive. So you need to do what's best for you. And I have people coming in all the time. And remember, I tell you how much I love helping first-time home buyers. I forgot how much I love helping reverse mortgage people, because they get the same excitement because they're able to stay in their home and they don't have to worry about that payment anymore. All they have to worry about is the tax and insurance and any other debt they have. So
yes, because unfortunately, a lot of people, because of the economy that we had, like you talked about, Ed, in the mid 2000s, they used up their retirement, and so they're trying to get by on Social Security, and no one can. No one can. So they used up all the investment that they had just surviving during the economic tsunami, and now we've got an entire generation. And what I read somewhere, 64% of that generation that's in retirement age, 62 plus right now, 64% have less than $2,000 a month for the retirement accounts. Well, if you still have a house payment, even if you bought it a long time ago, what are you looking? Some of them $700, $800, $900 a month. Well, who can live off $1,000 a month and pay your insurance and your taxes? And you can't. It's not possible.
I mean, and a lot of people plan on paying off their house, but they didn't. And I have other people who have retirement now, but are doing this because they don't want to take their money out of the market right now because, recent changes and downturn. They want to have it still grow for them future more. So they're doing the reverse mortgage to keep that other money in the market so they can build more there. So there's many ways to do this. I'm not saying if you have retirement not to do
that's a cool idea. That's actually a really good idea. So you're not dipping in during this market when it's so volatile.
Right. You can take it out, and then next thing you know, you don't have, it's not appreciating. So why not use something that does not matter what's going on in the market? I mean, it's appreciating. But the fact of now that we have this other program that's a portfolio allows us to get you even more money. The only downturn with the portfolio product is you have to take the full amount. So if you get 500,000, you have to take 500,000. Where with the other ones, you don't have to. You can take a certain amount, then take so much as you need it. Where the other one, you have to take it all. That's just you can always pay it back in 12 months. Or remember I said you can't use it to pay off debt to qualify, but I didn't say you couldn't use it after the fact to pay off debt.
Right. No, I understood that. And
I just want to make sure I clarify.
Hopefully our friends did too. But you absolutely can use it to become debt-free in every way. In every way, essentially for the rest of your life, you're debt-free.
And you can change and you said it the other, and help me. We do commercials on Fox 40, and they were talking about how it can change the way you live out the rest of your life. And it can, it's huge, right?
Like we were talking about, Ed, you've forgotten more And now you're back doing them because doing a lot of reverse mortgages, the market's got to be just right. And we're in that right now.
Correct. And actually a few years ago, there was even companies that's all, I mean, there's companies that have been doing all that's been doing forever, but the difference is there wasn't the equity that we have now, and it's so much easier. And there's even certain states, some of these people pulled out of because they're just so expensive to do in those states. And that has to do with escrow and title fees, where we have so many new escrow title companies that are so inexpensive now to do these kind of things. But they're still, like we were talking, I think during break, the big difference between on the FHAs is they have mortgage insurance that gets added on. And you have some origination costs and stuff like that gets added on, where those portfolio products don't. Big difference between the two. There is one fixed rate on the FHA, but again, you have to just have a mortgage you want to pay off and nothing else. So most people don't do those. The other ones are adjustables, and you look at the margin plus the index rate, and then you add, that's what you start with, right? And you could be at 2.645, you can be at 3.395. Those are kind of the start rates on those, but it's based off of the index. And right now we're still the lowest, but we're seeing inflation, and those rates are going to go up. And what the Fed does is going to cause those to go up. So you could be at the high rate of the other one. You might as well be there and be done with it.
And that's, let me speak in regular person ease. A lot of you out there probably understood edges perfectly, but I don't always. So in the past, a reverse mortgage was a great way to no longer have a house payment. But because of the equity that we have right now going on, you can not only eliminate the house payment, but you can get a whole bunch of money out depending on the amount of equity and what you qualify for. Correct. So, and then when you're talking about the difference between the FHA product and the private products, the private products, if your house is worth 1.7 million and you only owe 500,000, and that's paying off, you're getting 1.2 million, right?
Right. But again, the issue really is you should be making this decision yourself, right? Which is the best program. We sit down, we go through the different scenarios and tell you why each one's better and which ones would be worse and which one we recommend and don't recommend. And then we tell you to go talk to your tax person, go talk to your everybody, right? Just so they are on the same page of what you're doing. So, and I mean, people have done these where they, say they owe money to somebody because they're being sued for something. They're doing reverse mortgages to pay those people off, and so they can stay in their house instead of selling their house and selling everything to pay these people off. So.
Well, what I like about it is the idea that you don't have to sell your house and then try to take that equity you have and go find something you're going to pay, because the market crazy right now.
Yeah, you're better off staying where, if you love your house. Most people love their house and don't want to move. This allows you to stay there. And some people say, well, my house is too big. I want to get in a smaller house. Well, the problem with that is now you're going to pay more. So just close off those 2 extra rooms.
Yeah, get a roommate or shut them. Yeah, exactly. Or
Airbnb them or something.
Yeah, I mean,
make some extra
money.
There's
so many other things you can do right now. Oh gosh. Yeah. Well, you're listening to Real Estate Jerky here on PowerTalk 1360 KFIV with our host, Ed Parko, MBA guru, veteran, and expert of reverse mortgages and all kinds of mortgages. Actually, he's president of Lending for Living. If you've got questions for Ed, you can reach out by dialing 209-404-1915. That's 209-404-1915. Or visit lendingforliving.com or email us at radio@realestatejerky.com. You just reminded me of the occupancy or vacancy rates for hotels in this area in all of Stanislaus County, not just Modesto. It's ridiculous. Occupancy is like over any day. Don't pick your day, not a weekend, it's over 87%. So if you wanted to Airbnb grandma's house, they close that.
But you gotta be careful there, because no one could actually be living there full time. So that was, be careful with that. But I don't want to get into the occupancy rate, because Mark Twain said there's lies, Dan lies, and then statistics. And I think the question is how many decent hotel rooms do we have in Modesto, right? We didn't get those numbers. How many hotels have they closed down to remodel that's been being remodeled for years, right? There's that one by In-N-Out. There's that other one that's on McHenry. How many were turned into transient hotels? We don't have all these numbers. And so I would like to see the real numbers, because I mean, I know there's new places in Modesto.
And I can tell you, because all of my family, as you know, all lives away. And when the kids were little, not so much now, but we used to have them come visit quite often, and we'd put them up every single, well, when my son got married, what was that, 2018? Holy moly, putting up 350 people in this town, because that's what we ended up. It was not, it was, and
Well,
I
again,
had
right, but
6,
how many
7
rooms do we have?
months.
No one's told me how many rooms
Not
we have.
enough.
Yeah.
I'll tell you
Well,
from personal experience, Ed, not enough.
right, and
Not
I
nearly
get that,
enough.
but again, how many really nice hotels do we have in Modesto that you could put 350 people in that want to be
No,
there?
we
Yeah.
ended up with 200 and some at the DoubleTree, and then we had what?
Nothing.
I can't say that.
No, keep going. You're fine.
Oh, okay. I thought I can't say DoubleTree.
No, you can say that. That's fine.
There's some
Brought
that's
to you
new.
by.
That's new. That's new. What happened there? No.
No,
Okay,
yeah.
good. So we ended up with 200 and some change at DoubleTree, and then another 100 all over town, all over the place. In fact, actually, thankfully we had some friends who let us put some trailers and mobile, some
Mhm.
camp trailers and RVs and stuff on their property, because we just couldn't find a place for everybody.
Before I forget, and I know we're getting close, one of the other things that I've had some other people who do these reverse mortgage for a short period of time. What I mean by that is,
Ooh,
say their retirement won't kick in until 70, or say they have certain situations where things won't turn in, but they need to, and they can't afford the payment between now and then. They don't want to take their full Social Security at 62. They want to take it at 65, and all those situations. So they're doing a reverse mortgage now to get themselves to that point. And then at that point, they're going to refinance and get out of it. I have that happening too, but I still think it's the best thing. If once you get into it, you don't want to get out of it. So anyway.
wow. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, because some people have retirement that kicks in at certain times, right? And you have to get your max Social Security, I think you have to be at a certain age. You can get it earlier, but for most people, they want to get to that 65 to get that. And again, I'm not there, so I can't tell you what that number is. So check it out again with your tax people.
Wow.
Mm.
Wow. So what does that look like if you do it for a short period of time? You just don't
You're
use
just
the
adding
money?
on the interest, right? And so for most people, that just gives them that break for the 3 years. They're adding on that interest or whatever that number is. Say you're adding on $1,000 a month. That's 12 grand a year for 3 years. That's, figure that's at 24. Was that anyway? I can't add right now. It's 36,000. You refinance that in, but that's income you didn't have to worry about. So just that. So we sit down, we go through numbers, see what works. That's what's great about numbers. We run them, tell you what it is. Here's what you can do. Yes or no. No big deal. No harm, no foul.